The rapid global spread of COVID-19 means few answers, and lots of supply chain uncertainty across all industries. As nations strive to protect their people's health, the impact on productivity and consumer demand is inevitable, thus leaving supply chains disrupted. As nations temporarily close their borders, each organization is forced to take a close look at their own supply chain, highlight areas of disruption, assess the impact and find alternative ways to stay competitive. These are certain factors that will help you to assess the impact of coronavirus on your supply chain, and ways by which you can revive procurement of your supplies. First one is buffer management system. It involves stocking enough supplies to ensure ongoing production, in case you are not able to procure from your vendors. Businesses need to weigh in these factors, to assess the appropriate amount of buffer stock that can be kept at warehouse, to ensure continuation of production and operations. First is lead time. Up until COVID-19, we were living in the Amazon era of being able to get an endless supply of whatever we need, and getting it quickly too. Organizations rarely were considering item safety stocks with a factor of, what would happen if we ran out? But now organizations need to reassess their lead time, by including the factors such as restricted logistics, delayed shipments and so on, that are caused by this pandemic. Procurement needs to ensure availability of enough supplies, so that production endures. On to the next one, we have ABC analysis. ABC inventory analysis is a method used to classify a business's stock items into three categories, that is, A, B, and C, based on their value to the business. A classification items are very important and sometimes business critical. While B classification items are important, but less important than A items and more important than C items. And C classification items are marginally important. Typically, they have a low inventory value. Thus, it makes sense now more than ever, to set different service levels, safety stock levels and reordering parameters for each category. By this way, entities can estimate the perishable period, lead time, cost and other factors of each category, so that it can avoid any loss of supplies while ensuring consistent production. Moving on to the second factor, it involves using multi-vendor strategy. Multi-sourcing is no small task, especially for companies that have relied on single suppliers, factories, warehousing, and shipping vendors in the past. It can be challenging to manage data, while trying to keep track of multiple versions of products, and component records. It can feel like you're being required to do a lot of hard lifting, when first onboarding new strategies with multiple vendors, but being adaptive to new market conditions is a requirement for growth and relevancy. The key is balancing resilience and diversification. Businesses need to work towards eliminating the reliance on a single vendor. Due to the pandemic, and imposed restrictions on logistics, it is highly possible that businesses of your vendors may be affected, or transport and logistics from vendor state or city may not be possible. Thus, businesses need to integrate more closely with suppliers, vendors, and customers. And, to gain benefits and value by assessing the supplier and customer needs. Benefits includes service, cost and cash improvement across the supply chain. Plus, increased understanding of demand drivers and supply constraints. Following are the few recommendations for businesses that need to start developing a multi-vendor strategy. Number 1, find the right technology partners for you. There is a seemingly endless amount of tech solutions to vet. Businesses can surely find fit for their current process available. Number 2, test multi-vendor sourcing with a few products first before expanding updated processes across your entire product line. If it provides fruitful results, then only start implementing such in your different product lines. Number 3, vendor marketplaces and portals can help businesses find the right suppliers, anywhere in the world. Thus, by using multi-vendor strategy, businesses can make sure the presence of enough supplies even when certain vendor businesses can't supply materials in the event of any crisis. The third factor is supply chain risk assessment. You have to be aware of your supply chain. Consumer companies should immediately identify their key suppliers, as well as understand their risks and ability to meet supply requirements. With the surge in demand for essentials, businesses should understand their suppliers' ability to supply materials with the right quality standards and timeliness. This assessment should include suppliers of materials, as well as services that may affect the speed or viability of their operations. Monitoring inventory levels, and improving visibility over all inflow of goods, therefore, is critical. Retailers should also try and gain visibility on the suppliers and supplier production schedules, shipment details, etc. to understand and foresee any material flow disruption situations beforehand. Investing in a technology-driven dashboard which provides real-time information via an app could be a good option for businesses to explore. Thus, leadership teams can start with a few key questions that will highlight the company's exposure to supply chain disruption caused by the coronavirus. These questions include following. Number 1, which of our suppliers, or our suppliers' suppliers, could face delays or interruption, and what are the alternative sourcing strategies? Number 2, how can we communicate with customers in advance to safeguard sales and service? Number 3, do we have a command center with a cross-functional crisis response team that has access to vital data and top management? And number 4, have we mapped out several likely scenarios and developed contingency plans for each one? The answer to these questions will likely be the key to fully knowing your supply chain and eliminating risks regarding any future disruption in business's supply chain. The next factor is diversification of supply chain. Diversification can be a powerful remedy to supply chain disruption risk. A global supply network, including suppliers, manufacturing sites, logistics and warehousing, helps lower costs and spread risks across regions. Companies can reconfigure their manufacturing footprint by moving production to lower-cost regions such as inland China or parts of Southeast Asia. To improve supply security for core components, many leaders are developing alternative suppliers and sites in other countries. Apart from safeguard against future disruption, there are many reasons that supply chain diversity is important at an organizational and macroeconomic level. Broadly though, these can be split into 4 areas as follows. Number 1, access to innovation and creative thinking. Communication with suppliers is not a one-way street, where the manufacturer places an order, and the supplier fulfills it. Working with a diverse range of suppliers means having access to ideas outside your organization, helping to fuel innovation, and more creative approaches that proves beneficial for an organization. Number 2, commitment and quality of service. As we've seen, supply chain diversity allows for greater flexibility. There are also numerous other choices that supply chain diversification can bring. The ability to be flexible means you can respond to changing market trends, customer demands, and provide a higher quality service. Number 3, different cultures drive better approaches. By broadening your geographical supplier base, you are able to offer more competitive prices at the local level. SMEs tend to be more flexible and tuned into their customers than large global suppliers, and big business can benefit greatly from this. And number 4, cost benefits. According to research, working with diverse suppliers can help you cut your costs by 1/3. Although it is not always true, because reducing costs also depends on the specialization in particular product or area. Thus, supply chain diversification have benefits, but it is not without side effects. Oftentimes there is an increase in costs and complexity. Before making a decision, take the time to compile your supply options on certain items along with the pros and cons of diversification. And the next factor is material substitution. Normally, material substitution is done for reasons of cost, performance and weight. Companies are constantly looking for ways to make products lighter, better, and innovative. However, in present scenario, substituting an input or raw material may become essential for continuity of production due to shortage of supply, as the result of pandemic. With the help of material substitution, it might not be necessary to carry as much safety stock, if you are able to rely on the inventory of a substitutable item to satisfy demand, and to prevent the loss of sales due to the stock out of a particular item. Finding substitutes that can replace a family of products is the ultimate find, and can have significant cost savings, to offset potentially a more expensive item. Although while substituting a material or input, an organization needs to weigh in the following issues. Issue number 1, consistent monitoring. Material substitution is an ongoing process, and materials used for a given product should be reviewed and monitored regularly through a materials audit process. Issue number 2, benefits and drawback analysis. In substituting a new material for an established one, the characteristics of the new material should be well understood, and that advantages outweigh drawbacks of adopting it. Risk, cost of conversion and equipment needed, as well as the environmental impact need to be carefully evaluated. Issue number 3, incidental economic parameters. The economic parameters that also should be considered while implementing material substitution are direct material and labor, cost of redesign and testing, cost of new tools and equipment, cost of change in performance, and overheads. Issue number 4, uncertainty during the initial stages. The major stages of material substitution are screening of alternatives, comparing and ranking alternative substitutes, and finally, reaching a final decision. The initial stages involve only rough estimates, which become more elaborate as the substitution process progresses to the screening, and then the final selection stages. And issue number 5. Need for quantitative analysis. The use of quantitative methods ensures that decisions are made rationally, and that no viable alternative is ignored. These methods include cost of performance and compound performance function, methods for ranking alternative solutions, and also, cost-benefit analysis for reaching final decision. And lastly, let's talk about building a digital supply chain. A growing number of companies are creating a digital twin of their supply chain, and investing in control tower solutions for end-to-end visibility across the supply network. Those tools allow executives to model disruptions in real time, and respond rapidly, capabilities that could become critical to success in an increasingly uncertain world. Businesses should immediately implement a digital supply chain to manage disruptions. A digital solution can mitigate the impact of the coronavirus in the following ways. Number 1, it improved transparency and visibility. When planning, sourcing, design, production, and logistics are part of one connected enterprise system, retailers can thoroughly assess problems to mitigate damage. Number 2, collaborate globally. A digital supply chain platform helps companies access one single version of the truth. Workflow calendars and exception management are critical, as companies scramble to update production schedules when factories are shut down. Number 3, improved postponement. Once manufacturing capacity returns, businesses can use postponement tactics to delay critical production decisions until the last possible minute. Number 4, it managed raw materials more effectively. A supply chain platform that is digital helps retailers and businesses to manage raw materials so they can be quickly deployed to the right factories. Number 5, it boosts vendor management and sourcing. Diversifying sourcing strategies will help businesses manage a crisis like COVID-19. A digital supply chain platform's features such as vendor onboarding and management will let companies handle multiple sourcing locations. And lastly, number 6, it provides omni-channel inventory visibility and fulfillment. The coronavirus will impact inventory throughout 2020, so it's essential to prepare for a variety of fulfillment options. With the COVID-19 outbreak, which is continuously evolving, no one can predict the overall economic impact of this crisis in India, or globally. However, it is a reminder to businesses that such an unprecedented crisis can happen anytime. And if businesses want to continue to serve their customers during a period of crisis and disruption, they need to be proactive in their planning. Please leave a like and subscribe the channel if you want more contents like this in the future.